Thank you everyone for joining us today. As I mentioned, today we're working with a partner, which is pretty exciting, to talk about how to empower your business with data visualization. So your host today, as usual, is Casey McGuigan, the product owner for Slingshot. My name is Jason Barris, and with us, our special guest is Dylan Shaw, Director of Sales at Panoply. We are very excited to have Dylan with us to talk about his product and how it integrates with Slingshot. So most of today will be spent on demo, and we're going to kind of tie this together because in today's day and age, while you do have best of breed tools, those best of breed tools, you want them to work together, right? You want to be able to say, hey, we already have this thing. Now we're introducing this other thing, but hey, guess what? They work well together. And when it comes to data, collaboration, data visualization, data management, you need best of breed tools to do that. So today we're going to look at two of those best of breed tools. The agenda, short and sweet: the importance of data management, the benefits of utilizing a digital workplace, how we can connect data sources with Slingshot to Panoply, and how this works back and forth, how Slingshot really does empower that data-driven culture. And then we do have a raffle today. So we're going to raffle off 3 $100 gift cards. If you are not allowed to win a gift card, like, raise your hand and say, you know, don't call my name, and we'll make sure to write that down. But I'm pretty sure for the most part, there's only a couple people here that aren't allowed to win. And one of them's name is Phil Dinsmore. He's our VP of Sales. Phil, you're not going to get a gift card today. Quick housekeeping. We're going to send out a recording after the webinar. Please ask questions in either the chat or the Q&A. And we have all the experts on the line here today. So you will get an answer to your question. So the importance of data management. And if you've ever attended a webinar from Slingshot where Casey's presented, or Panoply where Dylan's presented, you know that data management is critical to driving your business success. So number one, easily accessible, correctly handled data. One of the issues is data sprawl. So data is all over the place in your enterprise, and you don't know how to get access to it. And once you do, you're not sure if it's correct. So how can you use tools to make that easier and to ensure that the data that you're actually using is the correct data? And of course, number two is to drive those smarter, faster business decisions. Everything that we talk about with Slingshot on Panoply is about getting data into the hands of your people at the right time to make the right decision. So for example, I was running late to this session today because I was in a meeting beforehand, and the meeting beforehand could have been a lot worse, but I actually had data in a dashboard in Slingshot when I needed it. And that's what happened. So where does that data come from? It comes from tools like Panoply, who make that data available with their tooling to other tooling. So it's an enabler to ensure that we can have that data to make those decisions when we need it. Number three, I think, is also very critical. What is this single source of truth? How do I know this data is correct? And how can the tool actually help me know that this is the single source of truth? And both Panoply and Slingshot help you do that. And you'll see that in today's demos. And then data literacy with metadata. Infragistics, you know, I've been with the company for quite a while, almost 20 years. And I remember way back when I would have access to spreadsheets, and those spreadsheets came from data warehouses. And those data warehouses were created by IT people. And IT people have a certain way of thinking and a certain way of describing things and a certain way of naming things, which the normal common person would never understand. They're domain specific. Maybe they're into the weeds of the data, so they know what it means. But then once it gets to the sales team, the marketing team, those things mean nothing. That's where layering metadata on top of your data really accelerates being able to make those business decisions faster, because you actually know what that data means. So instead of leads underscore blah, 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 maybe the metadata just says leads as of today, or current leads, or month to date leads, things that you easily understand and can then work with to make dashboards and make those business decisions. And that's really where Panoply comes into play with the tooling that integrates in with Slingshot. And then when we do talk about Slingshot, we talk about this digital workplace. Many of you, I recognize a lot of the names today on the webinar. You've seen demos of the product before. We're continuing to add cool new features to the product, and you're going to see more of that today. But when you utilize this all-in-one digital workplace with your data warehouse and ETL tools, you can create and visualize, share insights through stories faster. You can drive collaboration, and you get those actionable insights. So in order for your business to run successfully, you need to enable your users, but just enabling them is only a part of it. The data has to be correct. It has to be that single source of truth. They need to be able to understand it, and then they need to be able to collaborate on that in a meeting. And that was kind of cool about the meeting we previously had. We were actually talking about implementing this learning system, and one of the looking back sort of data points that you can, if you're a tech company, you can ascertain by looking at data is what paths are people taking to success. So we were looking at this dashboard of, what client framework technology people were using, what data sources they were using, what server technologies they were using. And that could be a Java server, a Node server, a .NET server, all these technical things, and then where they're located, what country are they in? And so independently looking at that data, you're like, hey, look, everyone's using SQL Server. But then once you dig a level deeper, you could say, well, everyone's using SQL Server if they're using .NET Core. But the folks that are using Java are using Postgres and they're using Redshift. And so, and by the way, a lot of those folks are over in Europe. In the US, we seem to have a high collection of this type of cohort. You would only know that by having data, having that driven in a dashboard through a data warehouse, through an ETL tool, and then being able to collaborate with your coworkers on that to enable those insights. This kind of stuff happens every day at Infragistics. And I know I talk a lot about how we use these tools, but I think that's part of the reason why we see success more so today than maybe 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, while we were very successful, a lot of the decisions were made by gut feeling or kind of what that guy who works in that department knew best because that's what he spends his time on. But at the end of the day, once you see data in action and you can actually collaborate with your coworkers, your team members on it, you're making the right decision and you're making those decisions faster. So with that long-winded explanation of a few slides, I want to hand it over to Dylan. And Dylan is going to take over the screen, kick off a demo, and we're going to see how all this stuff works together.
Awesome. Thank you for that intro, Jason. So I'll first start by defining in my own words what the platform is. So Panoply is defined as a managed analytical warehouse with ELT, but we stop at the sync and store. So as far as being able to analyze it, we would normalize the data, get it in one place, establish that single source of truth, and then in Slingshot, you would connect and then be able to start querying and actually visualize the data. So this is the platform itself. You go in, you see your summary of everything. For today's focus, we're going to be looking at Twitter and Facebook posts as far as the data itself. It doesn't stop there, though. We can connect to essentially any REST API, really geared towards sales and marketing data, your CRM, your ERP, or even back-end system databases. We can pull that in. Since we are a managed warehouse, you also get the warehouse included. So our platform is built on top of GCP with Google BigQuery being the back end. So let's look at Twitter. We've connected. We are syncing tweets, likes, and followers. You can go more granular here, but these are the top level as far as the data. Then you tell us how often to sync. So this can be an everyday sync or even throughout the day, every hour, where it's constantly pulling new data there. Similar settings with Facebook and all the others. You set that up. This is that single source of truth under tables. So you can see all the Facebook data, all the Twitter data. If you're NoSQL or you're in Slingshot and you need some custom joins made, you can come back to the data and do some transformations in platform. So let's say I want to query this Facebook post comments. I can take a look at what it is here, the metadata itself, and then I can query it in platform here with SQL, save it as a view, and then run that view in Slingshot. Since we're a managed service also, we are keeping up with all of these jobs. So every time it connects with the data source, it'll give you a summary of what's changing, the rows that were added, tables affected. And if this fails, then you utilize our support team. We'll make sure everything's running as it should. To connect the Slingshot, you would use the BigQuery details. So you've got your project name, the key, and everything like that. Once it's connected, all the data within tables will then Slingshot right over. Very easy. So I will pass it off to Casey now.
All right, and I am going to share my screen. And you can see Slingshot. Jason, if you want to give me a little nod, make sure. All right, awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to show you everything that Dylan just did in now the context of Slingshot. So taking all of your data that has been organized into those tables and now making it collaborative, actionable, and easily consumable within your BI tool inside of Slingshot that is your all-in-one digital workplace. So keeping it in context of a social media story, in Slingshot, you can see that I have a concept of your different workspaces and projects where I have this marketing workspace that has a number of different projects that are happening underneath of it. One of those is Slingshot, or is social media. So up here at your overview for this project, I'm able to set different statuses for my projects. I'm able to see important information that the owner has set for me. So the owner right here is just an example of a dashboard where I'm looking at my impressions, engagement, and all of my top level KPIs for my social media campaigns. In addition to that, we have our goal PowerPoint, different roles and functionalities for running social media. And then I have sort of like a resource allocation here where I can see as a manager of social, where people are blocked, what is overdue, and kind of like a breakdown by person of my resources. In addition to that, before we get into the data, you have project management, where you can see an example of just managing your social media campaigns through tasks. Conversations, where you'll see this come into play after I show you some of the dashboards. And then pins, where I can easily pull together all of my URL resources, my creative, any content that is in SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive, anything into an organized location to eliminate the need to have to dig for what I need in email or in endless folders in SharePoint or somewhere in OneDrive. So I can very easily find what I need when I need it. And then dashboards. So here, here's an example of the data that Dylan was just showing inside of Slingshot, but gonna take you a little bit through the beginning. So if I come here to add a dashboard, here is where I select my data source, and anybody on the line that's also familiar with our product reveal, this is an entire BI engine embedded inside of Slingshot. So a lot of different functionalities as far as machine learning, forecasting, data blending, dashboard linking that comes into play with your dashboards. So I'm going to come here to add a data source, and I'm going to choose Google BigQuery. I already set up this connection here, so I will select this, add my data source. And then you can see all those same tables that Dylan was showing pulled inside now of Slingshot. So I'm going to select this Facebook post insights. And now I'm in the visualization editor. So if I wanted to see over time the clicks of my posts, I'll do by month, and I'll pull over post clicks. And then you can see that data populate where I can give this a title for clicks, maybe over time. And I have a different chart types that I can choose from here. So if I wanted to use a line chart, you have different settings in here that I can change the color and the bounds of my axis and set trend lines and stuff like that. And then once I have my first chart that I'm happy with, I'll hit the check up here. And now I can continue to add other data sources, other tables, or just use the same table that I'm using here. So I'll just do that for the sake of this demo. If I wanted to grab another table from here, I could, but I'll select this data. And then let's do maybe a stacked column chart for, pull these over a little. Let's see, unique likes and shares. Give me a little bit something. So we'll do likes versus shares on your post, and then I'll hit the check up here. And then I can continue to add multiple visualizations here. But once I'm happy with my chart, I'll give it a name and I'll just call it Facebook data. I will, if I wanted to, I could set different themes and stuff in here, and then I'll hit the check to save this. I'll save it within the social media project. So now everybody on this project gets a notification that this dashboard has now been shared with them, and they can start gaining insights as well. From here, what I showed was all of the different tabs within Slingshot, but something really powerful now within here is that all of these tabs work together in what we refer to as productivity flows. So right from inside of a dashboard, I can come to this overflow menu, and I have different options for adding to a pin, starting a chat, creating a task, or starting a discussion. So this is where your actionable data-driven conversations really come into play. So from this dashboard, I can start a discussion, and I will select the organic performance here. I'll hit next. And I have this little annotation icon here. So I'll come up here and I'm going to take an image of the dashboard here. I could maximize a visualization and take an image of just one if I wanted to. And now I'm going to annotate this, and I'm going to draw some little circles on here. And that's good for now. And then I will hit done. And now right from my dashboard, I moved into a conversation with everybody on this project. They have a live link right to that dashboard and an image of what I annotated. And now if I wanted to mention the whole project or specific people, I can ask them, I forget what data that was. What is up with the decline in clicks? I think it was. And now everybody on this project gets a notification. They can come in, they can look right at this dashboard, right at this image, and I've kicked off a data-driven conversation. Miriam is online, it looks like, and reacting. And then once this conversation continues and there is some sort of outcome, Miriam, she's checking in on it. Right now here from this conversation, I can, from this overflow menu, create a task. And I'm going to create a task around the lead gen campaigns for Facebook. I'm going to click next and look into click decline. I'm going to assign this to Miriam. I'm going to give her a due date, and I'm going to let her know that this is very important. And now when I assign this out to Miriam, it automatically has a link right to this point of conversation. So now when she is ready to work on this task that is now in context of this project, she has everything that she needs right here, can click on this and go right into this conversation again. So really, hopefully you see the power of having your BI in context of your discussions, your chats, and all of your team level projects in here. Awesome, Miriam, doing great. And I think that was all I wanted to demo. Jason, anything you think I missed?
Yep. Can you highlight exporting features and share features as well? We have a couple questions on that.
Yep. So sharing of dashboards first is I can share with different groups in Slingshot, different projects, workspaces, or just individuals. And then I can, if I wanted to just share this with these two people, I can also give them permissions. So they can be a contributor or a viewer. And then I would just hit update. And now they get a notification that this has been shared with them. And then for exporting, we export to PowerPoint, PDF, Excel, an image as well. So for your Excel exporting, we'll actually map directly to Excel visualizations. So you can include a visualization on your export and it'll map directly to a line chart in Excel. So it enables you to kind of manipulate your data even more outside of Slingshot. And then for your PowerPoints, you can have really nice like branding in here. You can select which charts you want to include on your export. And you can do a lot of naming of your slides and notes and annotation right from within here, even before you export, so that you have a ready to go presentation right out of your export from Slingshot.
Cool. And then another question for Dylan. In terms of the access to the data that is stored in the system, do you have to add users to the Google BigQuery backend, or can user management be handled right inside of Panoply?
It's kind of up to the user. If you want other people to be able to add data sources and configure them, then you would add them as a user, but really the configuration is mostly going to be in Slingshot.
That's slick. Yeah, so the nice thing about Slingshot is once that share occurs, then you have access, you're sharing the data with your coworkers, with the other users. One thing we might want to highlight too, because it's kind of related, is the concept of the data catalog for the organization. So what we do at Infragistics is, Slingshot has this concept of data catalog. So while Casey was in the marketing workspace has discussions, tasks, dashboards, data sources. It can do all this stuff. And that might be good because it's pulling in data from maybe systems that they don't want everyone to have access to. But depending on the size of your company and how you have this sort of data-driven culture, you may want to just store items in the data catalog. And the data catalog gives you the opportunity to share it with the entire organization. So in what we're showing on Casey's screen right now, Apex Homes is the name of our fictitious organization. And at the organization level, you have the data catalog. And within the data catalog, you can do things like store data sources, you can store dashboards, you can certify data. So maybe show a little bit of that, Casey, just so we can kind of bring full circle how that's managed in Panoply and then how we can consume that and put it right into Slingshot.
Yeah, my login actually isn't an org admin, so I can't show you the changing.
Oh.
I can't show you the changing of the certifications. But just kind of to highlight a little bit is you do have different levels of certification here where I'd be able to see who exactly is a gold level sponsor, a silver, and a bronze. And it really helps bring that single source of truth that Jason was talking about to your whole organization. So if I'm coming here as a business user and maybe I'm not that familiar with our data, I don't know how to create a dashboard, I can come here, I can search on really any term, find a dashboard. I can know that it's either gold, silver, bronze, or not certified. Everything will be in business terms, which also helps with that data literacy for people to really understand what it is that I'm looking at. So it really helps create that data-driven culture and makes everybody a data scientist.
Yeah, the idea of the citizen data scientist is what we're all trying to promote, is the democratization of data and letting everyone in the organization be able to access that data. So
Yep.
Thank you for that. I think that's a cool feature, and it does tie in all of what we're trying to talk about today. So with that, let me go back to my screen here. Make sure I'm up here. And I think we're going to, let me share first, and then we can
Raffle off them prizes.
get to the exciting part. Yeah, all of a sudden, the number of attendees kind of jumped up after I mentioned money. So thank you everyone for staying the entire webinar. What we want you to do is get started today. And also contact Casey or Dylan if you have any questions. So if you have pricing questions, if you have implementation questions, how to use the product, please give a shout out to Casey or Dylan. Contact information is right here.